was my understanding. There it is. All right, Chris Christie, we have your signal back. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark, I'm back with you. He's making his way westbound on Arrow Highway. So we're just south of the 210 freeway, crossing through Irwindale. And again, this is Azusa PD, westbound on Arrow Highway, approaching Irwindale Avenue. He may, in fact, head back over to the 210 freeway. Sure enough, making a right turn northbound, going to make his way back towards the 210 freeway. If he does get on the freeway, CHP is ready to intercept him and eventually take over the pursuit. The helicopter is overhead, but it looks like he's making his way into a residential neighborhood here, so we'll have several units from Azusa PD follow him through here, and we'll see what he decides to do. But again, this is an armed and dangerous suspect now crisscrossing the streets of Irwindale. Mark?
Do we know, have you been able to determine yet what he is wanted for, aside from just being armed?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's about the extent of the details we have, and we're not clear on whether there's anybody else inside the car. Clearly a blacked out, very dark tinted white Chevy Cobalt. Again, this started on the 605. CHP was tracking him for a while. He was going northbound, southbound, eventually ending up on the 210 freeway, and Azusa PD picked up the pursuit. I believe this all started in Azusa, so it does appear that he's made his way back into familiar territory where this began, again, all in the last 20 minutes or so, and now he's kind of doing a circle here through Irwindale. So we're getting closer to the 210 freeway, still on surface streets, however, for the time being.
Okay, making a big sweeping left turn there, as Chris indicated, circling around this Azusa neighborhood, which is often an indication that the person may be looking for a place to bail out. This may be familiar terrain, and we shall see if that's the case. At any rate, the officers are staying pretty closely behind, indicating that perhaps they're contemplating a pit maneuver or perhaps just wanting to follow closely at this point. We have no indication that this chase has gone into tracking mode at any point. Despite its level of danger, they are continuing to follow closely here on surface streets. The sky map technology showing about 40 miles an hour. And Chris, do we know how many people are on board?
Yeah, unclear how many people are on board, although I've got to say he's doing much more manageable speeds, clearly going right through these intersections at a high rate of speed, but at one point he was doing over 100 miles per hour on the freeway. Still, when he got off the 210 freeway, he was doing about 70 miles per hour. Good to see him slowing down even more. Now he's, like you said, about hovering in the 40, 45 mile per hour range. So he's now crossing over the 210 freeway. And that's back. So we're back in the Citrus area, basically continuing north into Azusa's jurisdiction, maybe making his way over towards Glendora. But he's now crossed the 210 freeway, had the opportunity to get back on the freeway, but he bypassed that. CHP still tracking nonetheless, but he's making his way further north here through the San Gabriel Valley. But again, unclear how many people are on board that vehicle. Believed to be a white Chevy Cobalt, and again, very hard to see inside there with those dark tinted windows, but at least one person obviously, and he is being described by CHP at this point as armed and dangerous.
All right, and what is good now, of course, there shouldn't be that many pedestrians out at this time of night. There's not much traffic. Looks like there's 2 people in there. I see somebody in the passenger seat.
Yep.
So 2 people in it.
Got a confirmed passenger.
And
yep.
Yeah, and so, but what I've noticed is he's run quite a few red lights just from what I've seen in the last minute or so, and these speeds are pretty high on these surface streets.
He's picking up once again. We'll go ahead and throw up our real-time speed tracker, and you'll get a better sense of the speed limit here. Can't be more than 55 miles per hour, so he's doing a little bit above that, 60, between 50 and 60, slowing down for this light here, going around some traffic, trying to negotiate that intersection, and you can see he's continuing on here, but not really showing any signs or any regard for the rules of the road. Obviously, just trying to evade police at this point, trying to get away. Doing very dangerous speeds, and again, making his way a little bit closer to the 210 freeway once again as he zigzags his way through Azusa. Not really showing any certain, clear indication of where he wants to go. No clear destination in mind, at least as far as we could tell from up here. But you can see right there, CHP's helicopter is overhead tracking each and every twist and turn, trying to establish some kind of a pattern. If he eventually falls into a pattern, obviously they can maybe set up for a spike strip up here. As you mentioned, not a lot of traffic to contend with over here this time of the night. On a Friday night, you expect maybe a little more, but not a lot of foot traffic either. So he's kind of got the road to himself as he makes his way through these residential neighborhoods. It's just a matter of maybe helping that he establishes some kind of a pattern, and eventually they can set up for that spike strip. In the meantime, he's just doing too fast. He's going too fast for a pit maneuver. That's not really an option, but they do have enough units right behind him to, you know, track him if he does decide to pull over and foot bail. Again, as we mentioned, there's now 2 people confirmed inside that vehicle, a driver, somebody in the passenger seat. You can see another officer cutting him off there at the intersection. So we've got, again, a good half dozen black and whites right behind him, and I believe all of these officers are Azusa PD officers. You can see even an officer coming in the opposite direction. So look at this. I mean, every intersection he's getting to now, he's encountering more and more law enforcement. They're able to kind of triangulate his location here and cut him off at these intersections. And hopefully, I mean, they may even box him in at some point here.
Well, he's really slowing down. I wonder what's going on. Did he maybe run out of gas, or is something else happening here?
Yes, very suddenly. It almost seems like he's run out of options, but he's clearly slowing down. In fact, that primary unit right behind him, Unit 17, with the Azusa Police Department driving with the door open, another officer pulling alongside. If he decides to bring this pursuit to a peaceful end, that would be the best news for everybody involved here. But clearly, something has caused him to think twice about continuing this pursuit, whether he ran out of gas. Very likely, by the way, that's a very good possibility, just judging from the way he came to that slow crawl. But in any event, officers now taking up position, officers with their guns drawn, waiting for this guy to put his hands out of the vehicle. Sure enough, it looks like he's going to give himself up here. We've got hands out of the driver's side as well as the passenger side of the vehicle. He's going to have to turn that vehicle off here momentarily until they feel more comfortable and have him crawl out at some point, get on his hands and knees, and hopefully he will comply. But for now, good news, we've got hands out of both the driver's side window and the passenger window in this case. A number of black and whites pulling up behind the units you see in this shot. Also, police officers pulling up in front as well to shut down this roadway, avoiding any possibility of crossfire risk here. So just in case they have to use force, they'll be prepared to do so. But so far, and we saw those hands out the passenger side earlier. It looks like he might be. We've got hands out the driver's side. The passenger still holding the hands out. They're going to be giving them instructions, very clear instructions. You can see that driver's side door opening up that looks like these guys want to give it up. Again, that car came to a very slow crawl, a sudden end of the pursuit. They thought twice about it, maybe ran out of gas, or maybe some other factor involved here. But you can see the driver now out of the vehicle, this pursuit coming to a peaceful end here in Azusa. I believe we're going to be at 9th Street and North Alameda Avenue where this has come to a termination.
Okay, and we can see the passenger door now opening, or is that a shadow? It's hard to tell.
It's opening.
Yeah, the passenger door is now opening, got both hands still out the window. They want to keep their hands visible. They're giving them very specific instructions. You can see also that driver clearly has some baggy clothes on. That's going to pose a risk. They want him to eventually get on his hands and knees, walk backwards towards them. Clearly, he's following their orders here, and they will deal with the passenger after they take this driver into custody. So first, they'll have him back up, eventually hands behind the back, and the next order of business will be taking that passenger into custody. But this does look like this has come to, fortunately, a peaceful end on a Friday night here.
And he is complying with officers' commands. That's always a good sign. Kind of
Good
a textbook
news,
ending to the way he's going to get down on his knees, keep his hands above his head. These officers, several of them, are going to go on and grab him at this point and search him, immobilize him, handcuff him, and that's one down and at least one more to go.
At
you see
least one more
there.
to go. We don't know what the situation is in the back seat. That's still a question mark, and they will wait before they give the code 4, which will be the all clear. So they have to determine whether there's anybody inside that back seat. But for the time being, it appears only that passenger with his arm still out the door. Can't tell if it's a man or a woman in that passenger seat. We'll see in just a second. But certainly those arms still out the window there, and that passenger door should be opening up momentarily here once they decide to approach the vehicle.
Okay, we'll see what happens as we watch this at North Alameda and East 9th Street in Azusa, where this car came to a halt after about a 20 to 30 minute long pursuit on Southland freeways and surface streets, primarily the 605 and the 210 freeways and surface streets in the Azusa area. The car circling around the Azusa area for the last 5 to 10 minutes and then coming to a stop here at Alameda and 9th Street, North Alameda and East 9th Street. We've seen the driver get taken into custody, and now we are awaiting the passenger to get out of the car and surrender as well.
It's interesting. I don't know why this person hasn't come out yet.
Okay, so this
he's
person is now
he's gonna
crawling
come out
over the center console. Okay,
Oh,
the
no.
car is in drive. Yeah, so I hope this person isn't doing what it looks like here. If he decides to continue this pursuit, that would be the worst case scenario. It looks like he's maybe
trying to
making
turn
an
the car
attempt
off.
he's turning the car off. I
Right.
hope he comes out the driver's side of the vehicle. For some reason, he couldn't come out the passenger side for whatever reason, but it does look like he's trying to exit the vehicle here.
Got his
That was
hands
scary
up.
for a second. Looks like he may have inadvertently, or he or she may have inadvertently
Wow.
Female.
put the car back in drive. So yeah, it's a female passenger now coming out the driver's side, stepping backwards, following orders here with her hands up in the air, and thankfully
she's
that car is back in park. Yeah, it does look like she's barefoot. Yeah, is that what you said?
Yeah, it looked like she's barefoot, and she was just
I think
fiddling
you're right
with,
there.
with the rear door or something. She just touched the car.
She's lucky it didn't go into reverse.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she could have.
That is,
That could have
you
ended
know,
really badly.
when you see it, when you send a car hurtling toward armed police officers, bad things can happen.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in this case. She was able to keep it in park, or put it in park.
Certainly appears that this was just a wild joyride through Azusa. Like we said, it all started in the same general vicinity before they took it onto the freeway, amped things up again. At one point, speeds up to over 100 miles per hour on the 605, and then making their way back in the same neighborhood. So really no clear indication of a motive in this situation. Of course, law enforcement has more information than we do because they were aware that this person or these people may have been possibly armed and considered very dangerous. Fortunately, this is coming to an end now. They have two passengers, or a driver and a passenger, I should say, taken into custody. They will approach the vehicle here momentarily and give the official all clear. That would be a code 4 once they can determine there's nobody else in that back seat, guys.
All right. Well, so far so good. No accidents that we know about. No incidents of other cars or other vehicles or property being hit by this vehicle that was being pursued by the Azusa PD. Nobody injured that we know of, and the suspect and the driver and the passenger are now in custody. We just don't know, and neither do police at this point, whether there might be someone else in the vehicle. They're going to check it now, or in a minute or so. They're going to walk up to it. They're going to check the rear seat. They are going to pop the trunk and look in there, and then if they find no one, they will declare a code 4. A lot of agencies will actually hold their hands up in the air and hold up 4 fingers as a signal to the helicopter, code 4, which means wrapped up. Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe to our Eyewitness News YouTube channel.